na 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 na
Square
na
round table. You know, you need to tune in if you want to hear you know. So we Chad, Josh, Dmitri, and Marcus every Friday. You know.
It's the square round table.
Tune in.
It's the square round table podcast. Tune in every Friday. Let's have a blast. I know at work you had a long day. Just relax and tune in.
Make sure you tune in weekly, every Friday. MajorsOnMusic.com. We also tune on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. So yeah.
Hey, what's going on, my freaks and geeks? This is the Square Round Table podcast. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Guys, this will be our 7th podcast of 2021. And tonight we welcome very special guests, Mr. David Skidmore and Mr. Sean Connors from the amazing percussion ensemble, Third Coast Percussion. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure.
Oh yeah, of course. You know, we really appreciate you guys coming out, man. I know it's been crazy, you know, this year and this past year dealing with you know, COVID and dealing with having to quarantine. Like, so have you guys been doing? I've seen you've been doing like a lot of streams with your live performances. Like, have you guys been using Zoom a lot more lately?
Yeah, we live on Zoom now. I fall asleep at night and like I dream in like little squares.
Isn't that crazy? Look, just having like Zoom nightmares, like that's crazy.
Can't escape the Zoom boxes, man. That's just what your life is now.
Right. So how do your concerts work now that you're not doing a lot of like live performances with people in the room?
Well, we're really fortunate actually. So we had invested in some cameras and some camera equipment before all this happened, and the design of having that equipment was to use it during live performances, because when we do a live show, you know, we're a percussion group and we're often playing on instruments people haven't seen or doing stuff that's tough to see from the audience. So we do like live camera feeds of what we're doing on stage, like close-ups that are projected behind us. And so we had invested in this equipment, and March 11th or whatever it was rolled around, and we kind of looked at each other and said, okay, I guess we're going to learn how to live stream, because, you know, we're like, what we do is perform and reach audiences.
Right.
We're not going to be able to do that in person. So yeah, we had our last live concert on Friday, March 13th. It just happened to be scheduled to be in a suburb of Chicago where we're based. So we're near home, thankfully. And yeah, 1 week later, March 20th, we gave our first live stream performance from our studio. And we've done over 20 live stream shows since then, plus a bunch of educational shows. We also do educational shows for young audiences. And yeah, we've just been adapting and learning and figuring out how to reach people in new ways, just like everybody else, I guess.
Have to
probably
shout out to our studio manager, Colin Campbell. So we have a staff. There's 4 of us on the ensemble who are who play in the group and also help run it. And then we have some staff members who don't play in the group, but help us in numerous different ways. And Colin's official title is studio manager. So on a Friday, we asked him, what do you know about streaming? And then on the next Monday, he had like learned OBS and learned what a stream key is and
OBS is
all
cool.
This stuff. Yeah. So big shout out to Colin, our studio manager.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely big shout out. It's truly been I guess kind of a learning curve for everybody, because like I tell all of our guests, you know, it's I never thought that I'd be doing a podcast every week. Like it's something, it's something, I say this every week, but it was something that was born like because we were in the house not doing anything, you know, under quarantine. So me and Demetrius and Marcus and Josh, we just kind of, you know, it was an idea that we had for a minute, but you know, it just being here, I was like, well, it's no better time to do it than now. I have nothing else to do. So, but yeah, it's been great. Like I've been able to speak to a lot of awesome people, a lot of people that I look up to, a lot of people that, you know, I take in their art all the time. So once again, you know, like you guys, it's just, it's a crazy experience. You know, it's unbelievable.
There's a lot of cool stuff that's come out of this. You know, it's just so much negative stuff, which is serious. You know, but it's amazing that people can be creative and and create something new, you know, and create something positive in such an uncertain time. So yeah, congrats to you guys for doing this. It's awesome.
Oh yeah,
thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much. It's also like a that's why I appreciate platforms. Like I appreciate social media so much more now, and like Zoom and YouTube. It's still a way for me to be able to get in contact with people that I'm not able to physically see every day for obvious reasons. So it's definitely been.
I don't know if you all have experienced this, but it normalized like calling up friends and having a Zoom hang too.
I know, right?
Oh yeah, I do that like
people
all the
that I haven't
time.
talked in years too.
Yes.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yes, most definitely.
No, completely. Like all the time. Like even when we're not doing podcasts, like I talk to these guys every single day. It's just about so it's no longer, I no longer feel like that, you know, that annoying friend. You know, it's just like, well, I kind of have to, you know, can't see him in person.
He's still pretty annoying.
It's like, hey, it gives us an excuse to do this every week, you know?
Chat just goes off. Like the voice chat just goes off all day on my phone.
You guys see this, my own
ding.
You see this, my own brother throwing me under the bus.
Yeah, he's like, man, I'm tired of you, man. He's like, I'm tired of you calling me, texting me, and all the time, man. I'm in the next room. Talk to me.
Exactly. But yeah, guys, one of the first things I want to know, definitely for me, because I really got into percussion listening to you guys. I'm not really familiar just with the genre in general, because I know like a lot of our viewers that probably feel the same way. Like when I listen to different bands, or like me and my brother went to a concert recently and the band had a drummer and they also had a percussionist. So I just wanted to know some of the similarities and the differences between those two, like musicians, like let's say a drummer, like what is the difference? Like how do you differentiate between the two?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like let me think about this. All drummers are percussionists.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if all percussionists are drummers. I may have that backwards. Maybe Sean could help me out with that.
No, that's correct. Yeah, percussion is like a large instrument family. So if you're a guitarist, you play guitar and maybe different types of guitars, but you don't necessarily play a violin, but you're all string players.
Got you.
So if you claim to be a percussionist, most often you're kind of stamping yourself with a label that I play more than one instrument. I play many different types of percussion instruments.
Yeah.
Specifically, I would say in the United States and in you know, maybe Western countries, if you call yourself a drummer, oftentimes it's referring to drum set.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm a specialist on drum set, which is a life pursuit. So there are a lot of people who, instead of being a generalist and playing multiple different instruments, they like focus entirely on drum set and they become a specialist. So I don't think David and I would claim to be like jazz drummers, for instance, but we can play drum set. So we're kind of like musical omnivores. Yeah,
that's a great thing to be. Yeah,
it's fun. It keeps it really fun because one of the things that I think we all love about percussion is like we do play drum set. You know, we're not specialists in drum set, but we play drum set, play marimba, we play vibraphone, you know, the keyboard percussion instruments. We play instruments that we build or that Colin, our studio manager, builds. We play instruments that are from all over the world because every culture in the world has a percussion tradition. And in spite of all the instruments that we play and that we've studied a little bit, like you could take any one of them and spend your whole life playing it. Mm-hmm. And like, even if we continue to sort of like find new instruments to try and incorporate them into our ensemble, we could do that for the next 50 years and we wouldn't even scratch the surface of all the possibilities of what we can do in terms of sounds, you know, the instruments we can play and stuff. So that's awesome to us. It's always something new, and it's it never gets old or boring. It's always something new.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Dmitri. What's up, man?
Being that, because when I was growing up, my mom got me into like band, and I was a percussionist. So like,
nice.
Yeah. So I was able to play like pretty much all the basic, like, you know, standard like percussion instruments like triangles, bass drums, snare drums, xylophone, all that kind of stuff. So I have a basic understanding of it. So yeah, it's very interesting, like all the things you can kind of get and kind of sounds you can kind of do with like percussion instruments and how you can like arrange stuff to kind of work out. So like I understand what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
That's
fun.
I didn't know that about you, Dmitri.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what's up, man.
Yeah.
That's like brand new.
Quietly sitting in the corner, another percussionist in the room.
Like you would think, because when I told him that you guys were coming on, he was like, "Oh, okay, great. That's what's up." Like I'm thinking you'd have been like, "Oh man, I've been in the percussionist game since like '96, man." Like, dude, what's up? I thought we were best friends, man. What's going
Hey, I
on,
told
bro?
you about that, man. We met in college. I told you about that. I told you I came back.
What?
Yeah, I told you this. I remember because we had a whole thing because you're like, I'm a guitarist. I play the bass guitar and this. I'm like, okay, cool,
Wow, that's what's up, man. Like I guess I forgot. That's good stuff though, man. But I guess like for you too, I wanted to ask you guys. So is like what sparked your interest in like percussion in general? Was it the fact that it was so much you can do with it, like or like was it something you learned from college, or was it something like you always wanted to do? Like what made you want to get into that genre?
Well, I'll go first and then David can say what got him into it. But it was exactly the first thing that you said. It was, I looked around as a kid in 5th grade, I guess, is when I grew up in New Jersey. And that's when they started band in schools. And I like looked around and I was like, what is the instrument that is in all of the different ensembles? Like they're not just playing in the orchestra. They're not just playing in the band. They're playing with the choir and they're playing in the jazz band and they're playing in the rock talent show thing and they're playing at church and they're playing in the marching band. And I was just into all of that stuff and I wanted to do as much as I could. And so I said, oh, okay, there's percussion in everything. It's like not to say that if you're a bassoon player, you couldn't play in a rock band. You can. It's just it's less common and you have to try a little harder.
I would love
the rock bassoon world. That's like an untapped,
maybe
that's an untapped market for real.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe get like an electric bassoon or something like that, kind of like rock out. Like
pedal array and effects.
Right?
Oh my goodness. I pay to see that, y'all.
Yeah, I'd pay. Yeah, I pay big money.
No, that's definitely awesome, Sean. Like, so you just wanted to kind of I guess like you said, you had multiple interests, so you wanted to be able to play wherever, whenever. You didn't really want to have any inhibition at all.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. What about you, David? What got you into percussion?
It's sort of similar. Like I played piano from when I was really young.
Oh wow.
And I liked it, but I didn't love it. And then in band, I actually played for 1 year. I played trumpet, and it just so happened that my family moved, so we lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I played trumpet for 1 year, and then we moved to Plano, Texas, near Dallas. And the whole year that I was playing trumpet in band, I was just like kept looking over my shoulder at the drummers, and they were having like way more fun. So when we moved, I got to this new band program, and I was like, I'm a drummer. And they're like, your mom said that you play trumpet. I was like, no.
Nah, she lied. She lied to you all. No, I don't. See my drum kit over there? That's mine.
Yeah, David, I definitely understand because my trumpet's still in my closet. I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, it's in the closet, but you can't find it.
I just wasn't feeling it. Not anymore.
Yeah, it's. I mean, trumpet's awesome. There's amazing trumpet players. So I don't want to throw a lot of shade at the trumpet. But the drums are a lot cooler.
Yeah.
But rock bassoon, guys, I'm telling you.
Oh, rock bassoon.
Yes, rock bassoon way up here, man. Yes.
Trumpet.
We're all gonna get in trouble because there's gonna be a famous rock bassoonist who's listening to your podcast. I'm really offended. I'm after
I will let you guys know personally if I get a call from an electric bassoon player.
Man, I gotta hear it.
I will let you know. We will have him on the podcast as well. but no, that's good stuff, guys. So I also wanted to ask, so are you guys like live close, or are you guys kind of spread out in Chicago? Are you pretty close?
Yeah, we're
Oh,
pretty
okay.
close. Yeah. We're like within a few miles of each other, I'd say, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
we have a studio that we rehearse at, and we have a little office that's attached to it as well. So during normal times, not during the pandemic, we would all go there every single day, and we have normal business hours actually.
Oh, wow.
I meet 9 to 5. We do a lot of planning together, but we also have meetings about like how to run our organization and all of that. And David and Peter from the group live pretty close to the studio. You guys probably live within a mile or two, I would guess.
Yeah, I'm about a mile. So actually, you guys were talking about like trudging through the snow. I usually will walk if it snows.
Oh, wow.
I get out my big snow boots and just like walk.
Right, get out the knee highs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Track it.
Gotta
Hey,
do
there's
it.
nothing wrong with that. So yeah, that's actually a good lead-in, because I wanted to know about sort of the inception of you guys as Third Coast Percussion. Did you guys attend the same college at all, or like how did you guys meet up?
Yeah, we weren't all in school at the same time, but we
Okay.
all studied at some point at Northwestern University near
Oh.
Chicago. And there's a really great music program there, and still a good percussion program. It's a different teacher now than when we were there. The teacher when we were there is a guy named Michael Burrett. And part of like studying percussion in college there was playing in a percussion ensemble like the group that we're in now. So we fell in love with the music, and it was an important part. It was an important part of his teaching. He took it really seriously, and I think it really instilled in us a love of the music. And it's a type of music that, like you mentioned, it's pretty rare. Like we're one of, I think, 2 full-time percussion ensembles, at least in the United States.
Oh, wow.
But it's popular in school, like in high school or in college, you play percussion ensemble music, but it's rare for it to be a professionalized group. And we're in school and we're like, this music is awesome, and there's so many like places we could play that people would be into what we're doing, and there's so many more composers we could work with and that sort of thing. So that's basically what made us want to do this or try to do it.
I think we also found that audiences were receptive to it, even though they didn't really know what was going on or what a percussion ensemble is,
Yeah.
It's because we're classically trained, so people might think like, well, am I going to hear like Mozart and Beethoven? No. Oh, you're all percussionists, so I'm going to hear like 4 drum sets the whole time? No. It's like it's something else. And usually the concerts are pretty diverse in terms of like the different pieces that we play and the instruments that we're playing those pieces on. And we've had positive audience reactions. We're lucky because I think for a lot of audiences, it's the first time that they're experiencing our type of music. So we get to be ambassadors for that. And that's a pretty cool feeling, I think, to show people something and then have them get excited about it and ask questions and maybe become a new fan.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So are most of them, or so do you guys have like variation, or when you perform, do you have like a section where it's kind of I guess you like talk to the audience or give like instruction or teach like what certain instruments are, or how does that work?
Usually when we do like a concert, we'll talk in between pieces. I mean, like you would at a lot of concerts, but a lot of times for us, it's not like an educational thing. Like we're talking to them like we're a teacher in front of a class kind of thing. But we sort of try to like read the room, I guess, a little bit and say like, okay, we're going to play this piece. And like, it's unlikely you would have ever heard of this instrument. Maybe, you know what I mean? We try and say it in a way so if somebody's sitting in the audience, they do know what the instrument is. They don't feel like we're like baby talking them or something. Gotcha. But just saying like for instance, a lot of times we'll say, hi, with Third Coast Percussion, whatever, next piece features the marimba. And, a lot of people know what the marimba is, but a lot of people don't know what the marimba is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
me, I didn't.
Totally, really?
Yeah. But it's almost like 50-50 now, I feel like. And it's changed even since Third Coast Percussion started. Our group's about 16 years old. And I swear when we started, nobody knew what a marimba was. And it's not like we taught everybody what a marimba is, but it's just this thing that's like, I guess it's more common now or something.
It's
You
you
say this all the
guys.
time, David. We hear it around us too, like
Yeah.
especially in TV and movies.
Mhm.
You hear a lot of percussion music now, so it feels like not as foreign to our ears, I think, as it was maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, but we'll still say, you know, or we'll talk about the composers whose music we're playing, you know, like, you know, here's a piece by Devontae Hines. Here's a little bit about how we met him and what his musical career is like. Just because it's all like, it's just, we always think it's more fun if people can kind of be inside the experience a little bit more.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it'll make them a little bit more like receptive, maybe towards a genre of music that they haven't really heard before.
Totally.
Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, your first time hearing any piece of music, even if it's by an artist that you already know and really like or whatever, that first time hearing it is different than your 5th time hearing it or your 10th time hearing it, you know, where you're like, I don't know, singing along or, you know, like what the changes are, that kind of thing. And often we're going to be playing like music that people are hearing for the first time. And that's an awesome thing. It's so cool to like be able to play something for someone and it's the first time you've ever heard it. But yeah, like just giving a little bit of, sometimes we call them just entry points, just like, here's what I like about this. You know, if this is your first time listening to it, here's one thing I like about it. It's a whole world inside this piece of music, but here's one thing you can kind of begin with, and then you'll hear other things as well.
I'd like to think of it kind of like if you're trying a first food for the first time, like you've never had Korean food before and you don't know what any of that stuff is. It's like helpful to have someone who's sitting next to you being like, oh, that's pickled cabbage, it's really popular, you have this to like cleanse your palate, and then this is a staple, and then blah 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 blah, and you're enjoying it together. So we try to say things in a way that we would want to hear it if we were coming to it for the first time.
Okay, well that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. Because like when I first looked up you guys, I was listening to music and I was like, huh, I never actually heard that kind of music before. And I was just thinking, what are they playing? Is that like a wooden xylophone? I mean,
Totally.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I'm just like, why is it look so expensive?
I thought the same thing.
And why are their arms moving so fast?
No,
That's how you gotta play it.
It's definitely some great stuff. Like you guys make some really, really cool music. Like it definitely sounds familiar. Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
No, that was a great point, Josh. Well, definitely familiar is a good word, because I know my my sort of introduction to you guys was Niagara, and it's really awesome. And that's why I kind of wanted to know like what your influences were, because I heard a little bit like I just heard like undertones of like hip hop kind of like, and I was just like, I gotta know these guys' influences.
Yeah. I mean, we're like Sean said, we're musical omnivores, like really like everything, you know? And Niagara's a piece that we wrote together, just as like one example. And I like sort of started it. So I'd say like a lot of that piece is me. And I do love hip hop. So there is something there, I guess. Tell, yeah. I definitely wasn't like trying to like, you know, like make a beat with it or whatever, but like it's in there somewhere, you know?
Yeah, it's heavy. It's really nice.
The influences seep in. And part of the fun thing for me about being in the group is that the other guys are constantly pushing what I listen to and artists I should check out. And sometimes it'll never really come on stage with us, but it'll get in there somehow, you know, like I would say I'm a dinosaur, so I have all these CDs behind me and stuff. I still listen to CDs.
Me too.
But like driving to work in the car, there's still a CD player, and I would say probably 9 out of 10 CDs in there are recommendations from the other guys. And I would say maybe like 2 years ago, I might not have known who any of those artists are, and it kind of rotates for us a little bit. It's fun. It's pretty awesome to be in a band with folks who are active listeners and who are searching things out. So you know, maybe Dave is like, hey, what if we considered working with this person? And then we do a little search, and I'm like, oh, this person produced this person's thing, and then they're like, oh, she's amazing. oh, and she collaborated with this person, and then we end up working with them, you know, or,
That's awesome.
or yeah, it's a pretty cool process.
No, that's pretty cool. It's always
Mm-hmm.
great to have. Well, that's why I guess I kind of liken it to working with these guys. You know, you have totally different people that bring something different to the table that you weren't thinking of before. So that's always awesome. And one song in particular that I thought was really interesting that I wanted just like a little more explanation of was Reaction Yield, because you were saying that it was inspired by synthetic chemists. I was kind of wondering, like, just tell us about it. I'm completely interested of where that connection came from.
Yeah, totally. It was a couple things like coming together at the same time. There was someone we met at a concert. I think we met him at a concert, who is a synthetic chemist and loves music. And he started this project where he was commissioning composers, for new works that were looking at the connections between science and music. And he approached us with the idea, and at the same time, the four of us had been wanting to compose something together for the first time, because each of us wrote music individually, but we hadn't yet had a chance for the four of us to work collaboratively on a single piece of music. And we were trying to figure out how to do it, because I mean, y'all know with there's four of you, it's like, you've got like all these ideas, and it's like, how do you decide which idea you're going to go with? How do you collaborate and get the best of your four ideas and that sort of thing. And we're like, four of us are like really strong personalities. So each of us, like we each have our own sort of like way of doing things. So this provided a perfect scenario to write a piece of music, because basically this synthetic chemist was like, there's a book that's like every element that you can like order, I guess on the internet, or I don't know what it is.
Okay.
But you can like order. Sean, do you remember the details of this thing?
Yeah, we viewed it as like a catalog of elements that chemists order from, and then they make different compounds from. And so all synthetic chemists like know this thing. It's like if if it's like it's a trade-wide or a field-wide common knowledge, like, oh, it's the blah blah blah, it's the the Bible of synthetic chemistry,
right, yeah, that makes sense.
And so he was telling us about this thing, and then he encouraged us, and it kind of like light bulbs went off above our heads kind of at similar times. We're like, well, what if we made a musical version of that book, and then that was our material for composing from. So we each as individuals could add the elements, I'm air quoting, like chemical elements, but in this case musical elements. So it could be a rhythm, or it could be a melody, or I think Rob even like just wrote a sentence to describe something, and we threw it in the pot, and then we kind of played a big game of musical telephone where one person would pick from there. We'd like shake it around, and one person would take an idea out and run with it and try to develop it. And that was the first time that we ever worked in that exact way. And we found that it was just enough constraints on us to help us work together. Because if it was a complete blank slate at first, we wouldn't really know where to start.
And it was also cool because it was like, this is something that we've actually looked at for a while, is like there's interesting connections between the sciences and music, and people sometimes think of them as being very different from one another, like the creative fields and the analytical fields, or that sort of thing. But like this piece is a perfect example. As Sean said, I think we came up with a total of 50 or 75 maybe little ideas, a little melody, a little rhythm, a little sound, something, and then we picked from those and made the piece. But it isn't like we just picked them and then the piece was done. Like we picked them and we tried them, and then we were like, well, we like this, but we don't like this. And there's a real scientific process there of just like trial and error,
Yes, that's how solid it is.
Yeah.
It was interesting because our friend, the chemist, Glenn, he was with us during this whole process. And so he would get excited about something and he would make connections. And sometimes the connections were very literal. They would be like, well, in chemistry, to activate the catalyst, I'm making stuff up now. I don't know what I'm talking about. to activate the catalyst, you need to stir it. And we're like, oh, well, what if we like made a stirring motion? And the piece starts and ends with a bowl with a ball in it that's stirring around. So it's like,
does that have a specific name? Because
bowl with ball.
With it.
So that was like a very literal thing that Glenn kind of like put in our head and like drew out from the piece. But then there's other kind of like more metaphoric things where it was like, well, in chemistry, there's a process to get from point A to point B, and it goes through blah, blah, blah variation. And we're like, okay, explain that variation to us. And he would talk at us and for a long time, and most of it would go over our heads, but we'd glean something from it. And we're like, okay, well, what if we took that process and tried to do that musically to get from one section to the next? Like, what would that be called? What would that sound like? And it was cool. It was like, I think catalyst is like the only word that I really like, can intelligently talk about in the process, because he kept talking about like something that causes change, a catalyst. And it was cool to have him in the room and have something else being a catalyst and helping us along to make decisions. But yeah, it was cool.
No, that's definitely awesome.
It's always cool to have like a science friend to help you out with stuff like that. Like I tell Dad all the time, I'll be like, hey man, like if I'm writing something or like I'm making like a science thing and I'm like, hey bro, does this sound right? Because I don't want to get it wrong and the science people jump on me. I'm like, yeah, man. He's like, that's good enough. They'll know what you're talking about. I'll be like, okay, cool.
Right. We're pretty nice. So I mean, as long as you're on the right track, you're good. You're good. But that's amazing, guys. Like you could tell I'm very excited about it. Like I think that's so I just think it's great, because you're right, David. Like a lot of people, they think of like not just chemistry, but science and art as something completely different. And it's not. Like a lot of the same things you do analytically to come up with different types of colors. Like it's all science, like different types of colors, melodies, sound, it's all decibels, it's all science.
There's a formula to everything.
I really want Exactly. It's formulas to everything. Like science is everything. So, and I think it's so interesting, guys, that you sort of combined like music and science. I want to know like what gave you the idea for that? Because I know you have your educational program, Embark. Is that the one where you use chamber music to teach, or?
Yeah, Embark is our sort of Chicago educational effort, and it covers all kinds of different programs that we do. We have a program called Making Waves, which is all about teaching 3rd through 5th graders about scientific concepts behind sound and music, and making connections between music and science and math. And that program kind of came about actually because, again, like someone came to our concert. In this case, an engineer, a professor at the University of Notre Dame. We're playing at Notre Dame, and he's an incredible professor and teacher and scientist, but he also loves music. Plays guitar and he just loves it.
Nice.
And he's seeing these same connections that we're talking about. And he, this was, what was this, like 8 or 9 years ago, Sean? And we're still working with him like all the time.
Wow.
Our current project with him is developing a curriculum for 3rd through 5th graders. It's kind of like an after school learning program where kids are building their own instruments, and like learning how to construct the instruments, learning about like the sort of connection between fractions and musical notation. Because the way that rhythm is written in classical music is just like the way that fractions are broken down. And the kids like write their own piece of music, so they're being like analytical and creative, and the lines are totally blurring between science and music.
That's great.
It's something. It's just something we're really passionate about because it's important. I think it's important for kids to not feel like siloed, like on the science kid or on the music kid. There's a little bit of that happens, as we're young, we're developing, you sort of like are getting your identity together.
Sure.
But we like being the people who are like, yeah, you can be the science kid, but that doesn't mean that you're never creative,
Right.
or you can be the music kid, and it doesn't mean that you're not analytical and that I don't know, can't do your math homework or whatever, like, it's important to us to sort of like open young minds up in that way. So that's the fun project that we're working on now.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah. No, that's
Love
really awesome.
guys. But what's the difference between chamber music and classical music? Is there a difference, or?
Chamber music is just like referring to, it's a really antiquated term, actually. It's literally from like probably like, I don't know, like royal courts in Western Europe in the 18th and 19th century. Like literally, like you're in your chamber, you're like, I don't know, your sitting room or whatever.
Yeah, it's also sometimes called salon music. Like you're in the salon. And you're,
Man, the salon.
yeah.
But what it actually means now is just like smaller forces. So like an orchestra is one thing. And that is usually a group that's big enough that needs a conductor. So chamber music is smaller than that. And it's not really super well defined, but imagine like, I don't know, max like maybe 10 or 12 people with no conductor, just making music together. So really it's not so different than like the way that, like most people would think about a band, there's no conductor. It's a small enough group that people can kind of hang together without needing a conductor or whatever. So we refer to ourselves as chamber musicians because that's the training that we had. We came from classical music training, but at the same time, it's a really strange label to put on ourselves because by the time percussion classical music happened, there was no chambers or salons that like were having like a bunch of drummers come play. You know what I mean? Like that term was about like Mozart string quartets and Haydn string quartets and that sort of thing. But it's just sort of it's sort of stuck around. Does that make sense? Like,
no, it does, because I mean it just sounds really cool because when somebody says chamber music, it's like, ooh, what is chamber?
What's going on in that chamber?
But so no, that's a great explanation. So okay, that makes a lot of sense. And but I just wanted to take the time to tell you guys that I think do you guys, number one, do you have backgrounds in STEM? Do any of you have like science backgrounds at all?
Not formally outside of public school education, just whatever we learned in K through 12.
Well, that's awesome. Well, as a chemist, as a scientist myself, I think it's fantastic because I'm, big on, music education, and that's something that's really needed in school. And I love how you guys made a way to use that as a vehicle to learn about STEM and keep STEM alive and keep people interested in the maths and the sciences, and it's just amazing, guys. So I really, everybody at the Square Round Table, we appreciate you guys for that. Thank you so much.
Yes, we do.
Oh, you are definitely welcome. And but yeah, guys, I want to get into a little bit of like the technical stuff. Like, so you guys, do you use different types of mallets for playing on different things? Because I saw you guys like play with, I think you were playing, I can't even remember the song now, but you were playing on like glass filled with water, and so like was it a Philip Glass song?
Yeah.
I think I can't remember. So it was literally a Philip Glass song. Okay. And so do you guys use different mallets from that than playing on a marimba, or like okay, so what is the material made out of?
It's just like we have just like hundreds and hundreds of different mallets. So like we have like there's drumsticks, then there's like mallets that have a thin kind of retention. There's drumstick right there, and then Sean's got a marimba mallet. Okay. So the shaft of the mallet is thinner, and then what's on top is called the mallet head, and that there's like millions of different materials that thing can be. So on the glass bowls that you were talking about, we were using latex kind of rubber. So that has a certain sound. What Sean was just holding up is a rubber ball wrapped in yarn, and that has a certain sound. And even within that, there's like 6 or 7 different levels of that kind of mallet, and it has to do with how tightly the yarn is wrapped. and sewn on there, and what material the mallet head, the ball inside the yarn is made out of, because it can be made out of plastic or it can be wrapped in latex. I mean, I don't know, you asked to get technical, so I don't want to go too deep.
No, that's good.
Yeah, keep it going.
That's fine. No, that's fine. That's fine. No, because I just wanted to know particularly, because it just, like I said, I have no idea. I think what's the instrument called? I think I have one actually. Is it I don't want to. It's a kalimba.
Yeah, kalimba.
That's what it. Okay, I actually have one, and I have no idea how to play it. I play at it, so. but yeah, no, I just wanted to know like some of the technicals in particular, because I know, like, what are some of the instruments you use? Like, is the main one like the marimba? That's what I've seen a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the marimba's in almost everything that we play. It's an instrument that it's not got as many notes as a piano, but it's close. So it's got a wide range, low to high. It's really versatile. Like, speaking of the mallets that we were talking about, you know, depending on what type of mallet you choose to use on it, it can have a totally different sound. It can be played in a way that's like a hum almost, you know, like a sort of a sustained sound, which is not something that percussion can really do. If you think about, you know, like a string player can just like play a long note. We can't do that because everything we do is like that. But you can play a tremolo in percussion, which is basically like a back and forth kind of thing. And if you do it with the right kind of mallet on the right kind of instrument, it creates a hum, which is sort of like a sustained sound. You can do that on a marimba. I think marimba and drums are probably the most common thing we play on. Would you say, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you know, drums have the impact, and they have drama, and they have a percussive quality to them, and marimba has pitch and a capability of creating melody and harmony. And when you combine those two, you can cover a lot of ground. And also, since in normal times we tour a lot, and our instruments are so big, we try to figure out a setup for like a whole concert, using mostly instruments that we could borrow from other people. So say if if we're in Chicago and we fly to Atlanta, we can't pack up a marimba and put it on the plane. It's too big. I mean, maybe we could, but we would be broke. It'd be like way too much in flight costs.
So it doesn't break down at all?
It breaks down, but it's, you know, it's very heavy. And the cases are very, very large. Like, you wouldn't be able to check most of the bags that you could fit a marimba into. They'd just be too big to put under a plane. But a lot of schools own marimbas. Maybe there's companies in large cities who would rent a marimba. So we oftentimes create cornerstones using instruments that are common, and then bring like 8 checked suitcases of weird crap that's like totally unique. And you know, for example, we play a piece that's for resonating pitched bowls. So they were made in Germany, but traditionally they're used in like Eastern Asian cultures. A lot of times they're used in paired with meditation and stuff. And you might have seen them. There's these bowls that you can do like the wine glass trick where you go around the top. But it's like you use a mallet to go around the side of these bowls.
Okay.
And so, for example, we have an amazing composer friend who wrote us a piece that's just for these bowls. So we throw 26 of these things in a suitcase and bring them, and we put them out on a table, and then suddenly there's a piece that really most people in the world haven't experienced before, like a piece just played on these bowls. So that could be one piece, and then we go over and we play a piece on marimba and some drums, and then we play a piece that uses like chopsticks on weird small instruments, and then we go back and play another piece on marimba and drums, and maybe there's a synthesizer on that one. And it's I think we get a lot of mileage out of interesting and new sounds that are paired in the order of our concerts, if that makes sense. So like, if you didn't like what you heard in the last tune, maybe you'll like this next one. That's completely different.
But wait, there is more.
Right?
No, that's cool.
Yeah,
Well, go ahead, Josh.
yeah. So
Oh.
you guys don't ever have to tune the marimba?
It's like a really specialized thing to because to tune the marimba, you actually have to shave the bars themselves. So our this guy that we keep talking about, Colin, who's our studio manager, actually is a master marimba tuner. But he does that in a separate shop. Actually, just so happens to be really close to our studio, but it's one of the few places in the country where you can tune a marimba. Well, you can tune a marimba anywhere, but like where people are who know how to tune a marimba. Because you have to like really, it's like the part you play on is like here, and then underneath it, it's just a block of wood, but there's a little piece right here that's kind of carved out, and depending on just exactly how much you take out of that indentation underneath, it changes the pitch. So it's really it's not the kind of thing like you would tune a guitar. Anyone can tune a guitar. You just turn the little knobs, I mean, when you know how to do it, you can do it right. But it's more like tuning a piano, I guess. You have to like call a piano tuner.
Oh, it's a whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, yeah, guys, just tune the marimba to a D, a drop D.
Yeah, no drop D tuning in marimba.
I feel like you wouldn't tune a marimba that much, though. You would just kind of like leave it as is. Like,
yeah, we try and tune them, I guess, every year or two. Is that right?
Yeah,
Sean?
I would say it's mainly like maintenance tuning, Demetrius. It's like like kind of like what Dave was saying, like a piano. Like if you start to hear it and you're like, oh, that seems a little wonky, seems a little out of tune, then you send your bars away. So you take the bars off the marimba and you send it to someone who can tune the bars.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So,
it's actually it's like it's a very scientific way.
I was gonna say, speaking of science,
it has to do with physics and the overtone series. So they're not just tuning it to the fundamental, which is the main note that you hear, but notes that are way above it. At an octave and then a fifth. And for any of you musicians out there, what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a process, and you have to get training to do it. No one in the ensemble would know how to do it.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, David and Sean, I just wanted to ask because I'm the film person of our crew, so I always gotta like throw in my little film question or like even TV or something. Is it like any composers out right now that you guys hear that y'all like how they using like percussions in their scores and stuff? Like, is it like it could be for a TV series or a film you've seen or anything?
Yeah, I've got one. There's a composer named, I'm not going to get her name right because she's, I think she's Icelandic, but Hildur Guðnadóttir.
Okay.
Do you know who I'm talking about? She wrote the soundtrack for The Joker and Chernobyl.
Yeah, I know exactly.
She's amazing. Yeah,
she
I love her.
Just so cool and really, really cool percussion sounds. And also the other one is this guy Ludwig Göransson.
Yeah, Black Panther and Mandalorian.
Yeah.
See, we're all on the same page.
Man, so cool. I've watched so many like YouTube videos of Ludwig Göransson just talking about how he wrote the Mandalorian theme, like on recorders and stuff. But he plays everything. He's he also makes me sick because he just does everything. He's so good at everything. I hate watching his YouTube videos because I'm just like, oh man, you're so good at everything. Damn it.
Be bad at something.
Yeah, he like plays drum. He plays drums on the Mandalorian theme, and he talks about how he just like did it on this one little drum in his studio. But he's such a good engineer that he like, he tweaked the sound in this way that you get this crazy kind of like marching vibe. Man, I think he's. Those are two of my favorites.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
Dave is so. I was gonna say Ludwig, but we got really lucky because we got to work with Danny Elfman, who's a big film composer.
That's
cool.
That's my
And
guy.
I grew up watching The Simpsons and like playing the Batman theme and marching band and stuff. So it was kind of like starstruck for me. But he's totally cool, and we didn't know this before we met him and started working with him, but he's like a percussionist at heart. Like he is someone who built marimbas. Like he went to Africa and just like there's a whole story. It's too long for the podcast, but like he traveled across and he learned how to build these instruments. And he owns out in California just a ton of percussion instruments and messes around with them, samples them, includes them in his soundtracks and stuff. And when it was confirmed that we were going to work together and he was going to write us a piece, we got such a percussionist piece from him. It was like written by someone who understands how to play marimba and how that's going to work and understands vibraphone, like in a way that felt like it was a percussionist kind of like approaching the instruments.
That's all.
Wow.
That's really cool.
No.
Yeah, actually,
No,
you know those
that's
master
cool.
classes that are being offered? Like you get like an advertisement when you're watching YouTube.
Oh yeah,
like,
Yeah.
yeah. So Danny Elfman has one, and if his ever pops up in an ad while you're watching YouTube, behind him there's a part in it where he plays bolophone and stuff. It's pretty neat.
I think it was
Oh,
Marimba
that's
too,
okay.
didn't it?
Oh, Marimba, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I forget what it was, but
Oh, and that's another thing. How many well, do you guys know, like, as far as the marimba family or the xylophone family, like how many instruments or percussion instruments are in that like area?
well, I think their technical name is like an idiophone. They're made out of
Idiophone.
material that if you strike it, the material itself is vibrating is what makes the sound, not blowing through it, not drawing across the string, and not and then there's drums, which are brainophones. So there's a lot of pitched idiophones,
Oh wow.
pitched idiophones would be stuff like a xylophone or a marimba or a vibraphone or like a set of tubular bells or chimes that when you hit them, they kind of sound like church bells, stuff like that. And then there's a whole slew of idiophones that are considered unpitched because that's the way that they're played. Usually it's like they have a special sound and you only play one or two of them, but all of them do have a pitch. They're just not organized that way as instruments, if that makes sense.
What would be considered in that
No,
like family?
it's-
Like in those?
Like a cymbal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, like a cymbal or like a wood block.
Makes sense.
I was thinking, yeah, wood block.
Yeah.
That's
So
dope.
what? Wait, would
Okay.
oh, sorry. Would I like a cowbell
no.
in
What's up,
in that area? Like,
Yeah, and now I'm probably gonna start like talking in things where I could probably be corrected by experts, but I think that subfamily is called like a metallophone if it's made out of metal.
okay,
And is an
Oh,
idiophone.
okay.
So like a cowbell or a cymbal. Yeah.
cool.
There are also, just to make it even more
Okay.
confusing, there are also a special kind of cowbells that are tuned to specific pitches they're
Oh.
typically called Almglocken, which is a German, but I think they're Swedish instruments. But so we've actually started collecting like tuned pitched instruments that are a little bit less common. So we have a set of like chromatically tuned Almglocken, which just means that they're set up like a piano keyboard. You can play melodies and harmonies on them, just like you would on a piano or a marimba. But we also have like construction materials we've cut to length that create specific pitches, like steel or aluminum conduit, like what you would normally use for like electricity. You can cut those to length and they sound beautiful. They sound like a weird other kind of marimba. This stuff called metal, it's just called metal flat bar, I guess, but it's used in construction, I guess for like framing drywall. I'm not totally sure what it's used for, but anyway, you can cut it to length and it also like creates pitches. So when we were working with Danny Elfman, we started telling him about all these like strange instruments that we built. And he was like, oh, that's cool. So he sampled them all and like put them into his software that he uses to write music, and like a little keyboard, and it was like wrote us all kinds of melodies and stuff on these interesting instruments that we built. So
They all seem to end up in my part for some reason.
I know. All of them.
I do.
Everything I just mentioned.
Yeah, and Dave plays like every drum that we own. So our two setups are massive and take like an hour to set up, and Peter just walks in and plays marimba.
Right, so you two have it the hardest out of everybody.
just on that piece in terms of setup. We don't
It's
have to
also
play
fun.
maintenance.
Our parts
It's
are the most
totally
fun, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally the most fun.
That's what's up. But that's brand new. That's actually really cool. I had no idea that there was the type of cowbell that you could tune.
That's really
So
cool.
like you could literally have like more cowbell.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's so cool.
I was trying not to say it, bro. I was gonna say it.
no need to hold back. There's no need to hold back, guys. Come on.
Man, I want to say it, so I need more cowbell.
Right. Because right when you said that, I was like, oh my God, more cowbell. That's crazy.
Like, I was playing the image of Will Ferrell banging on the cowbell.
Exactly.
If you want to hear a track with these things in them, there's a track that that people like, and they're like, what is that sound? And we're like, oh, it's the Omglocken, it's cowbell. It's called it's a Philip Glass tune. It's called Madeira, which is spelled
Madeira.
Yeah, Madeira.
Okay.
Madeira River, and the cowbells come in as the main melody in like a couple seconds into the track.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to listen to that.
Definitely.
Is MADEIRA? EIRA. Okay, cool. Madeira. Awesome. That's and one instrument, another instrument I wanted to I think I saw you guys play it in your tiny desk. It was like because you were talking about instruments, and a lot of your instruments don't have that sustained sound, kind of like a violin, but I saw this one, it looked like a bell, and you played it with a bow, David? Something like that?
Yeah, there's one instrument that I play in the Tiny Desk show that's it's actually a crotale, which is
Okay.
They're made out of the same metal alloy as a cymbal, but they're constructed in a different way, so they have an exact pitch, like we've been talking about, just like a piano or a marimba, but you can bow it, so you can use like a cello bow, and it's a flat disc, so the bow goes like that along the disc, and it creates this crazy like high-pitched almost like kind of a feedback sound,
Right.
but exactly in pitch, and it's on purpose, unlike most feedback. Yeah, that piece where I play that is another Philip Glass piece called Amazon River, and I also play another instrument called a melodica, which is just a harmonica but with a keyboard attached to it, and it's another one that has sustain in it. So that's a piece that Philip wrote but Sean arranged, and we play that one a lot. It's a beautiful arrangement.
And he plays some cowbell in it.
I play Omglocken in that too. That's a one-stop shop. You guys want to hear everything we're talking about? Skip to minute 8 of our Tiny Desk concert.
It's easier to spell too. Amazon.
Here you go. Awesome. So,
go ahead, Chad. All right.
Well, you're good.
Yeah, guys. Another thing. I was watching your Vic Firth video. When you guys were performing Torched and Wrecked, like how hard was it to get that sync right with with each of your individual what's it called,
each of our parts, you mean? Or
like the sheet music?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
How hard is it to get the sync right with each one of your sheet music? Because all of your hands are moving extremely fast. How hard was that to pull off?
That's a challenging one, yeah, for sure. That's something that I wrote, and I deliberately wrote it knowing like, okay, I think we can do this, but maybe just barely. And actually one of the challenges of that one is that so we're playing nonstop, but we're changing pitch, right? So, but we each change pitch at a different rate. Mm-hmm. So the way that I change pitch makes the music sound like it is in kind of one beat, but the way Sean changes pitch makes it sound like the beat is here. And then the way Rob changes pitch makes it sound like the beat is here. So in addition to just trying to like sync up the individual notes, we have to like kind of hear our own beat the way that we're feeling it and hear everyone else's and make sure that it lines up in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just more math. It's like that piece has 12 notes in every measure, and you can divide 12 by 3, you can divide 12 by 4, you can divide 12 by 6, you can divide 12 by 12. And when you're dividing that combination of notes up, that's really what makes you like tap your foot to a piece of music, is like, okay, the beat's here, but all of a sudden it can be here. And it feels like the like tempo has changed, but it's really just the way that your part is dividing up the number of notes. So yeah, so in addition to like just going really fast at the same time, the same speed, there's this other challenge of like of not like getting drawn into someone else's like beat and the way that they're playing, if that makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
it does, because you guys look like, I mean, the intense amount of concentration on all of your faces. It's like, you can cut the tension with a knife. Like, it's just like, okay.
Very serious, like concentration faces on that one. It's funny to see like all of our concentration faces. Maybe that's why I wrote the piece. I just want to see what Sean looked like when he was counting really hard.
I look like this. Sucking my bottom lip for some reason.
The whole video long.
The whole video. But yeah, so another thing that looks like extremely hard. Like, how long did it take for you guys to get the like the two mallet per hand technique? How long did it take you to get that down? And is there a specific name for that technique?
Yeah, that's a technique that if you study percussion in like a classical tradition, the way that we did, that these days you're usually getting taught earlier and earlier, maybe even as early as middle school. I started learning it when I was in high school.
Okay.
And there's different ways of holding two mallets or two implements in each hand, in one hand. But the method that I think we use the most often is the specific name for the type of method that we use is called the Stevens method. It's named after the guy who kind of developed it. But there's many different ways of doing it. The way that we do it, if you guys have pencils, I can teach you super fast if you want. If you have two pencils or if you have a pen in front of you.
I got two pencils. So.
Yeah, I'll try and make this translate into a podcast. So the way that you would do it is you'd start with one hand and you would do, you would separate your middle finger and your ring finger like your Spock from Star Trek.
Yeah.
My handicap, you got me. I can't do it.
And then you take one pencil and you'd put it in between where you separated your fingers, and you'd wrap your pinky and your ring finger around it. So your fourth and fifth finger, your pinky and your ring finger, are holding one mallet still. And then your other three fingers are in charge of the second mallet.
Okay. In between your thumb and your first finger. Yeah.
Yeah, and then your thumb and your pointer finger and your middle finger can move that mallet around, and that allows you to make the mallets closer to each other, or you can separate them and make them farther apart. And that way you can like play notes that are far apart from each other or notes that are really close to each other. That is the Cliff Notes version of it.
That was impressive, Sean. You started going down that path and I was like, this is not going to end well. You really pulled it off.
I taught little kids.
No, that's like step one. I understood how to put it in my hand. So like step 2 to 1,000, it's like the amount of precision. Like, I mean, how long did that take? I mean, because this is like you guys, all the keys are just like you hit them perfectly, like just ridiculously fast.
That's nice of you to say. It's not always true. We definitely make mistakes, but it's just like any other pursuit, you know, like if you're, you know, it's easy to run, but if you're going to be an athletic sprinter, you know, you have to train, you have to practice certain technique over and over and over again. Or if you're a violinist, like someone could teach you how to hold the bow and move your arm across the strings in the right way, but you'd have to work at it for years and years to get consistent at it. And the cool thing about percussion, one of the cool things is that most people can make a pretty good sound out of most of the instruments right away. There isn't a big barrier for entry.
Okay.
Like most people could sit down, add a drum set and make sounds on all the parts of the drum set, and it would be like sonically rewarding. You'd just be like, oh, that's what a cymbal sounds like. I just hit it. That's cool. But then like learning how to move all of your limbs independently is like, oh, suddenly this is a new skill that I have to develop. And it's like any other instrument or any other pursuit that is you know, worthwhile.
No, that's true. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely practice makes perfect. But yeah. What I like with you guys, like the I guess recurring theme that keeps happening is like you keep saying, well, this is math right here and I'm testing metals and all this kind of, like, you guys are just like, you know, scientists, man. Like you're killing it out here. That's pretty awesome. Like that is definitely cool. Oh, of
nice
course.
to hear that from a scientist.
Hey, you know, there's no problem. There's no problem at all. But it's 100% true. You know, it's like, I mean, just all it really takes is interest, you know, and like I said, asking questions. That's the biggest thing you could do in science. Ask a question and, be inquisitive. That's it. And you're there. Like, it's just that easy.
Yeah, I think
But,
it's a myth that the creative process is different than the scientific method. I think they're like the same thing, pretty much.
I completely agree.
I agree.
I completely agree. But yeah, guys, we talked a lot about like different composers that we like. Me and my brother, like, we're huge fans of Dev Hynes. Like, I wanted to know, like, what was how did that even happen? Like, what was it like working with him and for your project together?
We got connected to Dev through a choreographer. So we started doing a project with a dance company in Chicago called Hubbard Street Dance, and just an amazing dance company. And they brought in a choreographer named Emma Portner to create movement for them. And the idea was that, Third Coast would play live music, the dancers would be on stage doing movement by Emma. And then the question was like, who was going to write the music? And Emma had worked with Dev on one of his music videos. I can't remember which one, but she choreographed it. And Dev is the one moving in that music video. And she said, do you know Dev Hynes? And I was like, I don't think so. And she's like, Blood Orange. And I was like, yeah, no, Blood Orange. Like, what? What are we talking about?
Yeah. Right.
But I didn't know he was into classical music, and it turns out like it's his first music. It's the music he learned first when he was a kid, first piano and then cello. And he had been really interested in writing more classical music. So yeah, Emma just connected us and we started talking about it. And it was a really, really cool process because it was Dev's first big like classical piece that he had written. So it was fun for us to get to be a part of that and sort of just collaborate with him really closely on that. And he's just such an incredibly like creative person and just a really nice guy too, it's always nice when the artists that you like turn out to be like good people.
Right. Like you guys seem like really, really nice. So,
yeah, cool.
Thanks,
people.
Yeah.
Well, that's really nice of you to say. If any of y'all meet Dev or watch an interview with him, he's just like so humble, and it was so cool working with him because he had so much trust in the process and suggestions that we would make and stuff. So like, he would say, listen, you guys play these instruments, I'm going to compose the piece, but like give me feedback about which instruments work better and that sort of thing. And it was awesome. It was very collaborative. So there's a lot of input from us in the piece. All of the pieces, are Dev's, but it was a collaboration in the truest sense because I think everybody was open to giving feedback to each other and exchanging ideas and stuff. So, and I think the end result is much, much better for that.
Yeah. And the album of that music just got nominated for a Grammy. So
Hey,
we'll see.
I was just about to say,
Thanks,
congratulations,
man.
guys.
yeah, that's big stuff.
All right, that's awesome because you guys, you already have a Grammy for Steve Reich. Is that how you pronounce the last name? Yeah. And my favorite song, Mallet Quartet 1 Fast.
Yeah.
Like that is sick, man.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Steve's written a bunch of great percussion music, and he's a type of composer who, if you're a percussionist, you play his music from when you're like pretty young, pretty early on. So recording that album was a lot of fun, and it was also like really nerve-wracking because it was like we were like, oh man, like everyone knows this music, like everyone. I mean, every percussionist knows this music, so like we have to like really like nail it. So,
well, I thoroughly enjoyed it, guys. So,
yeah,
definitely.
Thanks. Yeah.
And how did that feel to like win a Grammy? Like, I know, did you guys hit backflips or like what was that process like?
I think if we could have hit backflips, it would have ended badly. No, that was amazing. The thing that I remember the most about it is like when we won and they call you up on stage. Like I remember just like looking at the other guys and like, I mean, we started this thing just out of school and like, it wasn't anything, and we did it because we loved it and we got better at it and smarter at it and like running the business of it and all that kind of stuff that you need to do to make it successful. And it was just cool to like be on stage with these 3 guys that I went to school with and be like, oh, now this is a thing.
That's so awesome.
That's so cool.
That is
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Most of the categories in the that are awarded a Grammy appear earlier in the day before the evening telecast in a premiere ceremony. So that's where our category was too, and we got to perform in that ceremony, which was sick because the Grammys. Not sure if y'all have ever watched them, but they really like to bring different artists together and make combinations that would like never happen outside of the Grammys. So
right,
we got to perform that piece, Mallet Quartet, with a world famous jazz saxophonist, Robbie Coltrane, and he was soloing on top of it, and it was just like I was playing, and there was like an auditorium filled with like really amazing musicians. And I was really nervous, and it was cool because we've played a lot of concerts at this point, and I always get excited, but it was like a jolt of nervous energy like I hadn't felt in a really long time, while at the same time being backstage and like our dressing room was in between Lady Gaga and Metallica. And they were warming up. They were not partying. They were like, she was like taking care of her voice, doing vocal exercises. Metallica's warming up on drum pads and like having business meetings and stuff. And it was cool to see. It was very inspiring to see people at the top of the field who are these icons who were like taking it seriously and putting in their work and doing a great performance. So the whole experience was very humbling and encouraging.
That's really awesome.
Really cool.
I love to hear stories like that. You get to, do this thing because it's fun, because you enjoy doing it, and then, you just see like the benefits because you guys have been doing it for a while. Putting in the work, giving back to the community, like all of these awesome things, man. So I'm just so happy for you guys, like 100%, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely. But yeah, guys, we talked about a lot of great stuff today. One thing, like especially for our viewers and our listeners out there, I want to know, like, what are you guys listening to right now? Like, since it's been quarantined and all that good stuff. Like, do you have any good like music suggestions for everybody out there?
Yeah, Sean, you go first. I always got to pull up my Spotify. I listen to so much stuff I don't ever remember what it is.
Well, I got a hit from Bandcamp today. Because there's an article that a composer that we really like and have worked with before, Jay Lynn is her stage name. Okay. She was like featured in this label's, I think it's their 25th anniversary or something. And I just went down a wormhole and I started listening to all their stuff. Planet Mu, M-U. Okay. And it's an electronic music label. Okay. And I just started learning a lot of stuff. So that's like today, a couple hours before the podcast. That's what I was listening to. I was listening to Planet Mu stuff. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. M-U.
Were you big on electronic before then?
I don't think I'm an expert by any means. I was listening to maybe some more ambient stuff. There's another artist that whose album I just got, Ellery Saxel, who wrote a beautiful, sweeping, very ambient, electronically driven album, which is awesome. And it also has some acoustic instruments in it too. And she's a person who like straddles a lot of different genres too, some classical music, and writes out her music using notation, but also uses digital audio workstations and software to compose, and is like a pro on softwares like Ableton and that sort of stuff. And so I was more, maybe a little bit more knowledgeable of folks like her in the electronic. The electronic music world is huge. We're lucky enough to like interact with folks like her, or Tanya Braxton, who's another amazing electronic musician, or Bana Hafar. And we've gotten to work with them just within the last like 2 years or so. And Jay Lynn feels like she's in another special world in electronic music subgenre. and I didn't really know anybody else on this label, and so I was like, this stuff is awesome, and like, and then I was like going through it, I was like, wait a second, wait, this guy's Aphex Twin, and like I didn't know his real name, so like I only knew him as Aphex Twin, so I was doing a lot of learning today and listening. So.
Well, that's what's up.
That's cool.
Okay, bit of a deep dive. I like that. I'm the same way, so I understand.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. How about you, David? What you been getting into, sir?
I really is like, it's like a little bit too many to name, but I've been really into Flying Lotus lately. If you guys know Flying Lotus.
Flying Lotus
Nice.
is amazing.
Of course. Of course.
He's actually, I think he's actually Robbie Coltrane's cousin or something like that. They're like related somehow. Or something
wow.
like that. But that's somehow like how I first came to know him. And then there's an artist called Moor Mother, who just put out an album that a friend turned me on to. It's Moor Mother. That's totally worth checking out. I mean, we mentioned hip hop, so I listen to a lot of Kendrick Lamar. I think he's the best. He's a genius. I think he's a genius. He's on like a kind of another level. So I always go back to Damn, especially, he's amazing. I've been listening to Nine Inch Nails. If you go back and listen to
of course,
that stuff is like,
please.
It's like, it's so dark and like
it's amazing. Like, oh my gosh, I love Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah. Like, Trent Reznor is
like Wish.
Yeah. Trent Reznor is a really interesting dude because he this is like a very weird percussion story, but there's a percussionist named Tom what's the Cleveland dude named Tom Freer, who's a really famous percussionist. He plays in the Cleveland Orchestra, which is one of the best orchestras in the world. And he went to school with Trent Reznor, and they were in a band called Exotic Birds together. And yeah, Trent Reznor's like this classically trained musician, I guess, on some level.
Didn't know that. Wow.
And
awesome.
So it's just like it's like one of these like really weird kind of connections. But Trent Reznor, I think, is just another like total genius. Like he's
like,
a
monster. Yeah,
he's on this like other level somehow. There's a guitarist named Rafik Bhatia that I listen to a lot.
Okay.
He's worth checking out. What else?
He plays in a band called Sun Lux too, which is an incredible, really awesome band. He has solo projects as well, but that band's pretty sweet to check out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys know who Tamar Kale is? She's a composer. You were talking about soundtrack stuff, Marcus.
Okay.
She wrote the soundtrack to Mudbound, which is a really great movie that I think came out during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think so.
Worth checking out. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like going through my list here.
He's just like scrolling through all his list. He's like, that one.
Like,
that one.
So good. There's so much good music out there. It's amazing, like.
No, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I will definitely say Jay Lynn is like, Sean mentioned Jay Lynn, and you guys should check out Jay Lynn if you don't know her music. She's like nuts. It's the kind of stuff that like if you drink coffee in the morning and like there's ever a day where you're like, oh, there's no coffee around, just put on Jay Lynn instead. Because it's like,
I was about to say, is that high? That's crazy. That's what's up. I'm gonna have to try that. So yeah, for all our viewers and listeners out there, we'll definitely put all the music suggestions in the description below. But yes, guys, it was such a pleasure having you on tonight.
Yes.
Like it was a great experience. One of definitely the most fun I've had on a podcast this year so far. So,
thank you, man.
Yeah.
So
Talking
a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Yeah,
talking to people that are percussionists, Cool.
Right,
just like you.
Yeah, right?
Just like you, Dmitri, the sleeper percussionist.
Exactly.
But yeah, guys, what's some advice you would give some bright-eyed and bushy-tailed people that might want to get into percussion or get into some marimba? Like, you got any advice for those kind of guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think try it out. You know what I mean? Like, whatever outlet you can find. The great thing about percussion in general is that you can sort of start and sort of like get a feel for it before you have to, like, if you want to play violin, it's like, okay, well, now I got to find a violin. If you want to like try out percussion, you can start on just snare drum, or you can, maybe someone has a drum set or whatever, and then you could say, this is cool, I like the marimba, and then like, if your school has a marimba or something, you can sort of like take it in stages. But I always say the same advice to students who are just getting started, which is, if you want to start by taking it seriously, but having fun, making sure that you're still having a good time while you're doing it. And, if you're going to get serious about it at some point, it's like being an athlete, then you get serious, and it's like, you do it even when it's not fun sometimes. But when you're getting started, like, make sure that you're enjoying it and having a good time. And there's so much music that you can play out there. And all of it has percussion in it. So you can kind of find your own path with it.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that exact last thing that David said, there's so many genres that a specific piece of advice for someone who's interested in percussion is maybe do some listening and do some figuring out like what type of music you like to play. And then maybe dive into that world of percussion first. And then you can use that as a launching off place. Like if you are really into hip hop, maybe like learn drum set, like take some drum set lessons, or if like you are really into salsa music, maybe study some congas, maybe study some hand drums first, or cajon or something, there's like a million ways into percussion.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great advice, guys. And for all our viewers and listeners, you heard it from Third Coast Percussion, the best. You heard it from the guys themselves, man. So that's like really good advice, guys. And but yeah, before we go, I really want you to tell our viewers and listeners, like, what do you have going on right now, where they can find you on social media, maybe something about your educational programs, and like what can we look for in the future with Third Coast Percussion?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're on most social media platforms. We're at Third Coast Percussion on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're particularly active on our YouTube channel right now, obviously, because we're not on tour because of the pandemic. So we're always putting out new videos, always live streaming. And the next big thing we have coming up is on February 20th, which is a big fundraiser that we're doing to support all of our educational programs and concert programs, but it's also like a fun concert. And it's not like you can only come if you're a rich person fundraiser. It's pay what you can. And we're actually calling it a family reunion, because one of the things that we sincerely think with our audience and our collaborators that we work with is that we're really like creating this big family. So it's like we're showing like old videos of us as like kids playing drums, and like we're playing new music, premiering some new collaborations, premiering a new video project that we've been working on. So if you're interested, check that out. That's February 20th. And you can find info on our website, which is thirdcoastpercussion.com.
And if you get in contact with me specifically, I can tell you about how to be involved in a special collaborative video for that. So the four of y'all could be in that with us. You should do a little video with us. That would be awesome.
Totally. You know how to hold 4 mallets now.
And you know how to hold 4 mallets, but you also know how to. You can go around your house and just find something that sounds cool and shake it and take a little video. And like,
seriously,
you'll go in. And so there's folks who are doing that, and then there's folks who have like studied how to play instruments. And then like the drummer for the band Wilco laid down a beat for everyone to like record on top of. And there's famous composers and stuff. So I have your emails. I'll hound y'all. But for any of the listeners, if you purchase a ticket at any price, a little message pops up and is like, hey, do you want to do this collaborative piece with Third Coast? So you should check it out. And anyone can participate with us.
Awesome.
Hey.
Yes, we will definitely be taking part of that. Thank you, Sean.
Yes.
I'll email you. You don't know what you can't into.
You can
Hey,
run, but
look.
you can't hide.
Hey,
Right?
look, we love it, man. We love it. But yeah, so for all of our viewers and listeners out there, definitely all that information from David and Sean, we will put in the description below. So no worries. And like always, guess what time it is, guys?
Shameless promotional.
Yeah. Yes, it is time for our shameless promotional, and we are the Square Roundtable Podcast. You can catch us every Friday on majorzonemusic.com at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 p.m. Central Time, and 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
And you can also catch us on YouTube on Fridays. And if you like the video, smack the like button and share. And go to the
Yes.
comment, talk about, any of the instruments you play. It doesn't have to be percussion, we are welcoming of all instruments here, and if you play the electric bassoon, get in the comments and let us know.
Right now.
Like, let us know.
Yes.
Follow us on Instagram at the Square Roundtable, Square Roundtable 1. Follow us on Twitter if you want to, at the Square Roundtable. I think it's the Square Roundtable. The Square Roundtable, yeah, the Square Roundtable, and follow us in our Facebook group on Facebook. Yeah.
Yes, definitely, guys. And we will put all that information in the description below too. But yes, y'all, it's been an amazing podcast. And I would love for everyone, including our amazing guests, to introduce themselves one more time before we sign out. And I am your host, Chad Singleton.
Dimitri.
Josh Singleton.
Marcus.
David.
John from Third Coast.
Awesome.
And this has been the Square Roundtable Podcast. We're out,
We
guys.
out.